Hello, Cosmic Witches, and welcome back to the Divine Gossip Girls podcast with myself, Karlie, Sophie, and Maggie. We are super excited to be here chatting with you guys today because we are bringing the topic of spiritual hygiene to the tea table. And I am really excited to be chatting about spiritual hygiene as I feel like a lot of times as people start to spiritually awaken, they don't necessarily know yet how to work with their energy, how to protect their energy, how to set up those energetic boundaries so that you don't just kind of become like that lighthouse that all the moths or energetic vampires want to flock to. So we're going to tap into all of that. I know as us three are all spiritual practitioners, and we work in contact with others, it is really important for us to be regularly cleansing our energy, regularly grounding, regularly protecting our energy as well. So we're going to talk a bit about our experiences with spiritual hygiene, maybe when we weren't protecting our energy or we weren't cleansing our energy and results of that, and maybe what we started to do to protect our energy more often, and experiences that have allowed us to strengthen our ability to set up those energetic boundaries. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on into this episode.
Hey Cosmic Witches! Divine Gossip Girls here, your one and only source into the spiritual happenings of the cosmos.
Ever wonder what this month's energy will have in store for you? What the planets and stars are even up to? Or if the universe can just help you catch a break already?
Well, lucky you, because we have all the spiritual secrets to tell. Get ready to sip on your weekly dose of divine tea. All right, so I wanted to start this episode kind of chatting about what it is like to awaken spiritually and how oftentimes when we start to awaken spiritually, we don't quite yet know how to work with our energy. Because think about it, I always think about a spiritual awakening as that light within you beginning to turn on. So it's kind of like a child beginning to walk again. Like that light has always been there, but for years and years it was muted by kind of this forgetting of the fact that we are a spirit, we are a soul, we are connected to this consciousness source energy. And as we awaken and that light bulb begins to turn on, I always see it as if we're a lighthouse now. And that lighthouse, unless it knows how to kind of honor its energy, or that it doesn't need to, or how to kind of protect yourself, then all of a sudden it's like moths are kind of attracted to the light. I don't know why that's always the first thing that comes to mind when I think about a spiritual awakening and that light turning on, but it is like you're learning a whole nother tier of yourself again. And you have to, in that beginner stages, learn how to work with your energy, learn how to honor your energy. And I kind of want to share a bit about my own experiences with the spiritual awakening and what happened as a result of not necessarily working with my spiritual hygiene or not really cleansing myself, and what kind of occurred as a result. Because we can see spiritual hygiene practices as preventative practices, right? Something that prevents us from it, like you brush your teeth every day to prevent getting cavities. Same thing with spiritual hygiene. You attend to your energy so that it doesn't go crazy, so that it doesn't get trapped or muted by something else in your energy field. So for me, when I started to spiritually awaken, I struggled with so much insomnia and so much back pain. Like I had this chronic shoulder pain that would not go away. And for about, I want to say 4 to 5 months, I was struggling with insomnia. And prior to that, I had 3-month period where I was experiencing panic attacks like 3 times a day, every single day. And I couldn't go on anxiety medication because I just kept having allergic reactions to all of them. So I really didn't have another option. I was like, what do I do? And so that was like at the start of my kind of healing journey, my spiritual awakening journey. And my dad started going to a Reiki healer, and he was like, you know what? I think she can really help you. Like she's helped me a lot with just feeling more at peace and being able to sleep better. So I went to this energy healer, and right away, she is very like intuitive, as energy healers are. And I'm sitting there and we're talking. I'm so nervous because I'm like, oh my God, can she see my soul? Like, what can she see? And I was telling her, I was like, I've been starting this healing journey. I started spiritually awakening and I have really bad insomnia and nightmares. And she said, okay, that is not normal. Like, your normal should be peaceful, good sleep. Like, no one should be experiencing tossing and turning all night long. Like, that should not be your normal. That should not be your baseline. And I was like, okay. And she's like, well, I want you to know that you do have three, like, she calls them false gods, but you can see them as anything. Just basically three energies within your field that are not yours, that are basically like energy vampires. And I could feel them because they were on my shoulder. I didn't even tell her my shoulder was hurting. And she was like, it is over your left and right shoulder. And there's one that's hovering above your head. Do you want to clear it? And I said, yes, I want to clear it. Please. And so she said, well, you have full autonomy of your energy field. You just have to remember your power. So she showed me how to cleanse my energy. And so I started doing that from that day forward. Every single night I started to cleanse my energy. And let me tell you what happened there. The insomnia went away and the nightmares went away and the pain in my shoulder went away. And now when I'm experiencing nightmares or I'm experiencing insomnia, I know that there is something in my energy field that is not mine to carry. Because think about like, oh, if you have this invader or like this pest in your house, of course you're going to feel uncomfortable to live there. It's the same thing with your energy field. It's your home. It's your little cocoon where your spirit, it's your spirit, like, floating around you. So if there's an invader, you're going to feel a little out of whack. So that was my first experience with needing to integrate some spiritual hygiene and seeing the shifts of, oh, when I started cleansing regularly, this is what happened. I started to feel better, have more energy, not feeling zapped, being able to sleep well. So that's a bit of my experience with it.
I think there's two reasons that you need to have spiritual hygiene. I mean, probably even more, but like the two main umbrellas are exactly what you're talking about, Karlie. And just a quick help for anyone who may be relating to what Karlie said, where they just feel like they take on so much energy that isn't theirs. Like, this is possible from a spiritual standpoint, but even from someone who is very empathetic, who is an empath. Like, it's so easy to take on other people's emotions. And something that I will probably say a million times on this podcast, and I will tell everyone who ever feels this way to get, is the crystal, the stone malachite. It's a crystal that actually absorbs more energy than it gives off. So when you keep it away from other crystals and you put it on your person, when you work with it, it absorbs the energy that isn't yours. So when you're cleansing, or even like before you do a smoke cleanse or after, just to make sure you get that all that energy out that isn't yours to carry, it can be a really helpful crystal to be like, okay, this is my cleansing crystal. This is what's going to leave me with, yes, maybe I'll still feel low, but at least I know that that low energy, that difficult energy is mine, or is my energy, is my emotions, and it's not something I'm just taking on from somebody else. So that would be my little tip there. But the second type of energy is something I really experienced and I've really had to work with, especially in the past year. I've been really looking at this and working with this more, which is the idea of spiritual hygiene and closing yourself off. Like, I'm such an open channel, and when I had my birth chart read, my astrologist was basically like, you have every psychic marker on the freaking map, so there is literally no end to how deep you can go into the oneness, into other spaces and realms or whatever, into that oneness of energy of the universe. So she's like, you need to have spiritual hygiene, you need to ground, you need to do these things so that you sometimes close that channel, because otherwise, yes, sometimes I do take on people's energy as my own, but what I often tend to do is just allow my energy to be pouring out of me without like putting that stopper on it, right? It's like having a garden hose and just never turning it off. Like, eventually your lawn is going to be completely overwatered and it's going to die. And so I had to learn to do this. I used to just be a wild child, and I would go out there and do past life regression, psychic mediumship, tarot readings, and I would not ground or cleanse after, and I would just try to like go about my day. And I think it caused me a lot of anxiety. It made me feel really, really tired. And even just small practices, like all I do now is I do a little visualization of like closing the gates. And then it's a 3-minute grounding meditation. And I always do the same one. I think for me with spiritual hygiene, the most important thing that I found is it doesn't have to be huge, but it has to be consistent. It has to be not trying, I mean, maybe to start out, you try a bunch of different practices to see what works for you. But once you find what works, stick with it until you feel like it doesn't anymore. Because that consistency is also grounding, is also its own form of spiritual hygiene, because you build trust with it and you trust that you will feel better, that it will work. And a big part, I think, of spiritual hygiene is trust, because it's all energy work. So if you're doing some sort of practice and you don't believe it's going to work, then it's not going to work because your energy is not going to respond to it. So that consistency with something that feels good and grounding and cleansing to you is going to be the most important.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like, especially as you start to tap into like your own energy as well, you become so much more like aware of the energies around you as well. And especially with the work that both Maggie and Karlie do, and myself, but obviously Karlie leads Reiki sessions and Maggie does our past life regression, and it does, like, it opens this channel. So it's like so important for you guys to create that protection field while you're leading those kind of sessions, but also afterwards as well, so that you can like ground and come back into your body, come back into yourself and be like, okay, and we're safe. But when Karlie brought this to the tea table, one of the first things that came up for me was like the spiritual hygiene of when you get into this spiritual world, and especially for us as practitioners, and we're putting our spiritual opinions out into the world, we're putting our voices out into the world, our impact out into the world. And now that we have our own podcast together and we have Aura Elevation, and more people are finding us and listening to us, and we have experienced someone or some people putting a spell on us and on our energies. So I think it's being mindful, if you are someone maybe who is putting themselves out there as a spiritual being, but also just in general as well, to cleanse your space and make sure that your aura and your energy is protected, and it is like, it is protected and cleansed, because people can send these kind of disempowering or negative energetic intentions onto you and who you are and what you're doing in this world. And I don't know if you guys actually seen or heard, but Samantha Daly, this happened to Samantha Daly. I don't know if you guys seen, but it happened to her that's twice on her retreats. So Samantha Daly, she's obviously got a much bigger following and much bigger platform than us, but she was running her retreat last, like, just December right there. And I haven't listened all the way through, but I seen it and I had to listen, because this was something that happened to us. Like, something similar happened to us where someone put a spell on our podcast and we had to get that cleared and cleansed for us. But I seen that it happened to Samantha, where she was leading her Dream Life in-person retreat, and all of a sudden she became so unwell. Like, our anxiety was so bad, like so bad. She was vomiting. She was just so chronically unwell the first day of her own in-person retreat. And she said that it had happened before, but she put it down to food poison. But one of her friends that were there, she was like, I think you should speak to my psychic. Like, I feel like this is someone that's put like a spell on you. So, or whatever you want to call it. So she went and obviously spoke to the psychic, but she didn't give too much information, because obviously she didn't want this to come back on her. But I think it's just important, if you are a practitioner or you're someone who's wanting to put their spiritual concepts and their work and your energy out into the world as well, to make sure that you are protecting your energy field as well, and you are cleansing, whether that be in that kind of way, but also just like with people in general as well, because you are beginning to open yourself up to more expansive energies and up leveling in your own energy, that it's important to stay rooted in that.
And I feel like I won't name names of like who put this like these intentions and this spell on the podcast, but it was Karlie's friend who found it and cleared it. So I think it'd be really great, like without naming names, if Karlie wants to tell that story and then add whatever else she wants to add to this conversation, obviously. But before we fully jump into that, I also just wanted to like just put a little disclaimer here that we're not saying this to scare you. We're not saying this to do any like fear mongering or to make you feel like, oh my gosh, do I have a spell on me? What do I do? Do I have these negative like intentions attached to me? That's not our intention with this episode. We just want to make sure that you're protecting your energy, that you're clearing your energy, and that this doesn't have to be scary. This doesn't have to be a big deal. If you just create routines of regularly cleansing yourself and regularly protecting and set things up, like you can set up passive routines like having the malachite, like maybe you put malachite wherever you do your makeup every morning, or maybe you put it like on your desk, like just somewhere where you'll interact with it every single day. Maybe when you have a shower, you repeat the mantra to yourself, I wash away all that is no longer serving me. I wash away any bad intentions. I wash away any negative feelings that have been placed on me by others. And just imagine that water just washing away with your
That's
mind's
exactly
eye.
what I do. That's exactly what I do. Every time I go in a shower as well, I'm like cleansing and clearing anything, even just within myself, but just like in my aura as well.
Yeah,
And it can be that simple as well. And it's not something,
exactly.
like you said, I'm so glad that you brought that up. It's like, it's not something to be scared of because a lot of us we never even thought about it. Like, we just didn't even
No.
think, and neither did Sam either. But I think it's just something to be mindful of as you continue on this journey, and using those small practices, those small, simple practices daily and you don't need to worry.
Because unfortunately, some people do have bad intentions. Unfortunately, people do get jealous. People do get triggered. People do feel certain types of way when you are thriving, when you are going for things that you believe in, or when even you're just simply healing. Sometimes your simple healing journey can trigger others. So we're not saying this to scare you. We're not saying this to blame maybe bad things that have happened in the past for you not cleansing your energy. Probably wasn't the case, but cleanse now, protect yourself, clear your energy, and you can do this in really simple ways. But
Maybe
Karlie,
at
do you
the
want
end
to?
of maybe at the end of this at the end of this episode, we can do a little energy cleanse.
Yeah, let's do a little energy cleanse at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
I would love that. But Karlie, I'd love it. I mean, I'm sure you have so much to say, but also, um, if you want to tell like a little, how do you want to say, redacted version of what happened in the
Yeah.
podcast?
I do. Yeah, I just want to say to bounce off of what you were saying that yeah, if you look at this all as energy, it can become that much less scary. Like I know when I started doing energy healing, I think one of my biggest fears of awakening spiritually was the like conditioned beliefs I had around ghosts and energy and all of this because growing up, my grandma in Mexico was super Catholic. She was like hyper Catholic. And whenever me and my cousins would be watching a scary movie, she'd be like, it's going to come through the TV. And now that I'm an energy healer, I do not like watching scary movies because I do, work with energy a lot. And I'm like, okay, I don't really like this. But I had so many beliefs instilled around me that this was scary stuff. I was like, oh my God, energy. But it's just energy, guys. It's energy. And the more you become spiritually connected to yourself, right, you start to awaken your somatic body, the more you're going to notice when your energy is off. So that's why when you become spiritually awakened, you become that much more attuned to when you're in settings and, oh, now it feels really overwhelming when I'm in big crowds, or wow, now it feels really draining when it used to be fine to talk to people that I don't really like, because your energy is that much more sensitive. It's turned on. So it's like your little antenna is attuned finally. And this is stuff that you've always felt, but you felt it subconsciously most likely, and you haven't actually been aware of it because you weren't connected to your energy. But as you spiritually awaken, you're going to become more and more attuned to energy. And that's why astrology and like the Schumann resonance is something I love to talk about, because these are energetic patterns, right? When the planets are changing and doing different things and you're spiritual, you're going to feel the impacts. When the moon is doing different things, you're going to feel the impacts even more when the energy, the resonance, the waves in the universe are doing something different. That Schumann resonance, you're going to feel the impact. So like that's why some weeks all of a sudden you're just like, wow, I could sleep for 10 hours tonight, and then randomly boop, the next day you feel great. It's sometimes just the Schumann resonance, sometimes it's just the planets. Yes, sometimes it is like health things, like you need to get that figured out. But if it's just like blips in time and you're like, why does this happen randomly, it's most likely because you are spiritual and you're connected to the moon, the cycles of the planets and the energy all around you. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. And a really quick thing too, that I really love that Maggie pointed out was to make these practices consistent, because the way that energy works is it works based off of your belief. So if you believe something, it's going to happen. That's how manifestation works. What you believe is what you create. I mean, like on a deep level, like subconsciously, like you're never going to manifest terrible things because your soul doesn't want that. But if you believe that it's working, it will work. Your energy will respond to it. So for me, after cleansing someone's energy or after doing any sort of Reiki circle, I'm always like, all right, guys, got to go wash my hands. And this practice takes me 30 seconds. I just sit there underneath the water with my hands, just underneath, washing away. I say, I wash away any energy that isn't mine to carry, anything that isn't serving me. And I just feel like this little shiver flowing down my body. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. And then I'll go back. But okay, yeah, these are just random points. But let's move on to what what occurred. So basically, moving forward, I think whatever space that you create, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're someone that works directly with people and you're putting your energy out there, like let's say you're a hairdresser or a doctor or a nurse, or, you know, you work in human resources and you're always in direct contact with people and you are spiritually awakened, to whenever you enter into new space, whenever you begin your day, whenever you create something new, to just send divine energy around it. And I think that's what we recognized through this experience with the podcast, was that anything that we create, we just need to create protection around it and ask for divine. Yeah. Do you want to go, Maggie?
No, yeah. I was just going to say, yeah. I think the problem that we had starting this podcast is that it was something like with Aura Elevation, it's been so big and like just blew up and so positive that we knew what we were getting into with this podcast. We knew it was going to be a big deal, but we just put it out in almost like a manifesting way. Like, this is going to reach so many people. It's going to be so amazing. And we were like putting it out with great intentions, but not putting it out with like that protection around it.
I don't think anybody speaks about that. Like, nobody speaks about that. And I think that's why we wanted to bring this conversation as well, to like remind people of the power and the importance of like creating that protection field around yourself, but also around all the projects or whatever it is that you're putting out into the world. Because like we put it out in that energy of excitement, the energy of like, oh my god, this is amazing, we're so excited, like, because we had obviously done 2 rounds of Aura Elevation and it like surprised us and exceeded our expectations. But again, like, nobody really tells you, like, to even for Samantha, like, she didn't even know, to someone who's got such a big following, didn't even know or think to create that protection field around what she's doing as well. So maybe this is your sign to do that for yourself.
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. I think that's something that from here moving forward, I always will create kind of that little shield of light. And we can kind of talk about how to do that and what we ended up doing after this experience happened. But basically, we could feel it. We could feel that something had shifted within, it was, I think, after a week after we put the podcast out. And once again, once you're tuned to energy, you know when something is off in your energy field, you know when something is strange. And so I think it was the night before I went to bed, I started to feel weird. Like my third eye was tingling. And I remember before going to bed, I just felt fearful. Like I felt anxious and I was like, something's weird. I need to protect my energy field. And I reached out to Maggie and Sophie the night before about, the podcast and some review. And I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. And I was feeling into the energy and I was like, this is strange energy. Like, this does not feel right.
But I
And
remember as well, like, was that when you said something about like somebody had like rated us like 2 stars? Is that right?
yeah, I basically,
Yeah, it was 2 1-star
You want to start with you.
reviews.
And I remember instantly being like, someone's jealous. Like, that was someone with jealous, bad intentions that have done that. Like, it was an instant, like, intuitive, like,
All of us.
yeah,
I think we thought,
we
oh,
all knew
maybe it's
it.
someone who just doesn't vibe with us. And we were saying, like, polarize to magnetize, like, whatever. But
I just
all of us,
all
all
were
of
just
us
like,
were
no.
saying it feels
Mhm.
wrong. Like, it feels malicious. And we're not sure why. Like, I wasn't even all that bothered by it, except for the fact that I was like, the energy feels off.
Yeah, yeah.
And it felt, we could feel, all of us. And I knew when I woke up, or I woke up in the middle of the night with a migraine, and I knew at that moment that something had gone on. And then in the morning, I was feeling super weird and very anxious. And I knew, for me, that's such a sign that something is really off in my energy field. And I remember texting Maggie and Sophie, and both of them had migraines, and we both felt really weird energy. And so then later we find out that apparently there's, something else happened with another podcast, and they just kind of were like upset that, we had kind of similar themes and all this stuff. And so we're sitting there like, okay, we're connecting the dots. And I knew that there was something in our energy field. I could feel it. I knew that something was off, because when I tried to go in and tap into cleansing it, I just felt like, at that time, I'm struggling with a migraine. Something else was going on. My health wasn't doing well. I think I just got over COVID. It was something that I just knew I couldn't cleanse it right now. Like, I won't usually go into any energy healing session if I'm feeling low energy, because it's hard for me to harness that power. So right away, I was like, I know who I need to reach out to. And I have a friend who's she's a witch, and she is just so incredible. She's really good at, removing evil eyes, or just doing things around clearing darker energy.
Does she have an Instagram or anything? Would we be able to shout her out in the show notes?
Yes, she does. She actually has a travel
Let's put her
page.
in
She
there.
also does, yeah, she has another account as well, and she does like tarot and stuff. She's so cool, you guys. I met her while I was traveling, and she's like my like the yin to my yang. I'm like the light, like, ooh, Reiki, and she's like, let me get in there with the dark. Like, let's fight these forces. And so I knew I had to reach out to her, and I did. And I was like, hey, girl, I feel like there's some weird energy around the podcast. Like, could you please help us in cleansing and clearing this away? I'm pretty sure it is an evil eye. And she is a seer. So she's able to go and basically, like, go and see stuff. So she's able to go back into the past and see things, and she's able to shapeshift and stuff. It's really cool work that she does. But basically, she ended up clearing the podcast. There was some weird evil eye energy around us, and she ended up clearing it, and just like everything that wasn't serving us, she removed from our space. And she ended up protecting us with a shield of like tourmaline energy, and it was so strange, because I knew when she was doing it, I went to yoga and I kept seeing snakes, and she has a snake that she works with. And I was like seeing snakes like all around when I was in my little shavasana at the end. And I was like, yep, this is my friend. It's her energy coming in and protecting. And then after that, after I think a day or two, the headache started to go away. And the kind of weird energy we felt started to go away as well. But after that experience, I know that the next time Maggie, Sophie, and I hopped on a call, we protected our energy. And what I realized is it's really important to call on that dark energy, not in like a bad way. Oh, it's dark energy, it's bad. It's just the more like protective energy of like tourmaline or obsidian, kind of that energy of like the more, sometimes I see it as powerful dark energy, right? Like there's dark and light energy. There's dark feminine and light feminine. There's dark masculine and light masculine. Like these are divine energies. It's not like because it's dark, it's bad. But what we did was then we saw ourselves and we protected ourselves with that shield of light. And then we also protected ourselves with like this shell of like tourmaline and obsidian. And I did my little Reiki, and it was just really powerful. But in that moment, there's one thing that I realized from that experience, and it's how freaking powerful your own energy is. You don't have to outsource to people all the time. But in this situation, I knew that I had to outsource to someone because it was something that isn't my realm of expertise. I'm not used to, working with darker energies. I clear entities and stuff, but not in those ways. So I wanted to outsource for that. But it's also that recognizing that you are so powerful and you can also cleanse your energy field too.
I got really excited there when you were talking because I was like, yeah, you are so powerful. But then sometimes, like, part of cleansing is like, I'm going to cleanse my energy and I'm then going to call in support. And whether that's support from someone who's going to go and help you cleanse, whether that's support of, like you were saying, I'm going to call on Reiki energy for support. I'm going to call on tourmaline obsidian, this really powerful, dark, grounding, protective energy. I'm going to call on water to cleanse myself, the water element, the earth element. You're calling on these things to support you. And we did this not only energetically with all of these energetic forces with your friend, but then we also did the same within our community. We could have then said, because yes, this was an energetic attack, but it was also like an actual attack on our ratings. And so we then reached out to our communities, and we could have just been like, oh, that sucks, let's hope it gets better. But instead we were like, hey, some people are being unfair, some kind of shady stuff is happening. Hey, community, can you go give us a 5-star rating? And the way our communities responded was next level. We have, between the two podcasts, I was actually looking today just on a fluke, between the Apple reviews and the Spotify reviews, we're almost at 100 reviews total, which 5-star reviews total. And that's just mind-boggling to be like, yes, we cleansed our energy, we protected ourselves on our own, but then we also decided we don't have to do this on our own. Hey, community, help protect this passion project, this thing of light that we have created by also calling in these amazing people from our community to build this protective wall around it through their own support as well. So we really thank you, every single person listening to this, for listening and giving us like downloads and listening and plays to our podcast and giving us reviews, giving us ratings, all of these things. It helps us so much, and you are part of our spiritual hygiene when it comes to this project. Your energy coming in and protecting this podcast and raising it up and allowing it to vibrate high. We get to be this space for each other where this podcast can be a moment where it's a cleansing moment for you. You can go for a little walk and listen, and it can be this moment where you're like, oh, I'm just going to come back to myself. I'm going to ground. I'm going to cleanse. And so with that, I'd love to, because it was her idea, invite Sophie to lead us all together. You've helped protect us. We're now, and help us ground.
Should I ignite Reiki?
Yes, ignite
If
Reiki.
anyone wants Reiki right now, literally just say,
Yes.
I allow.
You
You just have to invite it in, but this podcast will be infused with Reiki energy.
I mean, we could all just do it together. Like, Karlie, you can put your Reiki in, and I can guide the space. And Karlie, you can put your magic into it as well. And if you haven't already left a rating and review, please go ahead and do it. Like Maggie said, that we're so grateful, and it does raise the vibration of this podcast up. We really take this seriously, like Divine Gossip Girls. Like, this is just the seed that we planted, and we're growing this, and beyond our expectations. We've got so many exciting visions for the podcast and everything as well. So we want you to join us and kind of creating this shield of light. I loved what you said, Karlie, that shield of light, that protection field. And you get to be that. Like, you set putting that review in, putting that rating in, you are putting your little kind of sprinkle and dose of light into this shield, into this protection field.
We're gonna all say bye now. I think it would be great to just end
Yes.
end on this energetic practice. Karlie's going to turn her Reiki on, invite it in. You can do this while you're walking. You can close down your eyes, whatever you need in this moment, wherever you are in this moment. You don't have to close down your eyes. If you want to, you can, but just know that we are cleansing our energy now. And thank you so much for listening. Let's just get into it.
Thank you. Bye. But not bye.
Okay. We ain't going anywhere. Okay, I just want everyone to give a little shake of your hands and a big sigh out. It's making whatever noise wants to come through. Sticking your tongue out. And if you want to accept Reiki, just saying in this moment, I allow myself to receive the Reiki from beautiful Karlie. And I want you just to open up your chest. And I want you just to take a deep breath in. And out. Just letting go. Coming into the space. And just imagining a circle of light. And this circle of light is everybody listening. Everyone a part of this Divine Gossip Girls podcast and community. We're all together. Everyone bringing each other's light. And I want you to breathe in this light. And when you exhale, breathe it back out. And it just keeps on amplifying with each breath in and each breath out. Just visioning this light, this shield of light getting bigger and bigger and bigger with every breath in and every breath out, with every beautiful soul that listens to this podcast, that's a part of this community, creating this powerful, beautiful protection field, shield of light from your own inner energy, inner light. Taking your final deep breath in, breathing in this energy from us all, from this Reiki, from this powerful collective energy. Allowing it to infuse into your being as well, allowing it to infuse into your aura as well. Allowing it to lift you up, raise your vibration, become a vibration with us, this high vibrational protection field with us. And just with your final sigh out, just let go of anything that no longer serves you, that's maybe weighing on you, letting it go. And with this collective energy, allowing it to evaporate, no longer be a part of our shield of light. Thank you everyone for being a part of this community, of this space. We love you so, so much. Go and shine your light. Bye.